Want to thank everyone for joining us. We're going to start right away with questions that we have from individuals in the room for Coach Kelly. So with that, we have no handheld microphone, but you might raise your hand so we're not all talking amongst everybody else. Rick is the first hand I saw. So, Rick, you have a question?
Defensively, with Justin taking over for Nick, did he change anything schematically, or how's the difference with the new defensive coordinator up there?
They've changed slightly. I think they run a little bit more odd defense than they did in the past. I think they moved some guys personnel-wise around and put them in some different positions. Seems like they got more athletes on the field right now.
I might add, you might project your voice. We have no handheld mics. We have mics in the ceiling, so pick it up as best as we can. Rob.
If I get reflect back like a few years, that every game's a Super Bowl, no rivalry, or every game's a rivalry. How much, if at all, of a cultural change was that you had to enact? Was that a difficult process to get guys to buy in at first?
I think with our players, I don't think it was a difficult process because a lot of those guys, they don't know who was here 10 years ago, and they don't have any real timeline themselves. We got kids that are 17, 18, 19 years old, and you talk 10 years ago, they were 7 and 8, and they don't know what 7 and 8. They were SpongeBob SquarePants. They weren't worried about Joey Harrington. So, I don't think it was difficult for those guys. I think a lot of times people can bring up the past, but we're always trying to meet fast, practice fast, and those other things. We don't have a whole heck of a lot of time to kind of give them a history of the games played against certain opponents. So.
AJ.
Coach, it seems like your run-pass balance has been a big strength of your offense. What role does it play in your offense as your game planning balance between run and pass?
I don't think we look at it as that. We just look at, opportunities to gain yards and how do we utilize our personnel to the best of their ability, and that's what we're trying to do. And then once we understand what our players can do really well, then match up against them defensively, and then really, a lot of it is what is the defense going to try to do to you? And some defenses say, hey, we're going to make you throw the ball, then we'll throw it. I think that the balance part helps us because if you don't have the ability to go another way, if the defense takes something away from you, then you're in for a long night. So we feel like we've got a quarterback that's very accurate. We got kids that catch the ball outside and at tight end and the backs coming out of the backfield, and we also feel that we can run it. So it's really, we got a overall comprehensive package in. Then it really depends on how the defense is going to try to defend you and what they're going to try to take away.
Coach, Elliott says he thinks the D-line is probably the strength of that unit. How would you assess the play so far?
I've been really impressed with our D-line, and I think, with Taylor and Ricky and Wade and Isaac and Dion, we got a bunch of guys in there. We rotate a lot of guys. We've been doing that we're in our fourth year now, kind of running what we do defensively system. But it starts no matter where you are in football up front, whether it's the offensive line on the offensive side of the ball or defensive line on the defensive side of the ball. And I think those guys have been playing at a very high level.
A couple of them said that they feed off each other. When one gets a sack, they're excited for a second and then jealous and want to get their own sack. Do you see that?
Yeah, and we try to, we talk about that. Great plays rub off, so we want to celebrate as a team. And if someone's doing something well, you want to kind of see if maybe you can rub that off on yourself. But you watch those guys; they generally really care about the guy to the right of them and the guy to the left of them, and they get excited when they do it. But they also kind of that horizontal leadership kind of upset at every position. If all of a sudden Taylor Hart's cranking it up and getting a couple sacks, and Wade wants to compete and raise his game to match that game, and it's a good way to do things, and I think those guys do thrive off each other. So.
Coach, Avery Patterson, statistically over the years, his contributions have grown and grown and grown. What have you seen as his areas of improvement as a player for Avery Patterson?
I think first and foremost his understanding of what we're doing, but he's got a great skill set, tough sucker, can really run, as competitive as we got back there, and it's just his opportunities have become, he's just gotten more opportunities, but he's played a ton of football for us, so it wasn't like his first time, even though maybe it might have been his first start, and we don't really get caught up in the start aspect of things because he may not have played the first play in the game, but contributed a ton of football for us and had some huge plays for us in the last couple of years. The fumble he caused in the Stanford game. Just certain things kind of show up with him. But he's an unbelievable competitor. I think what he's really improved on is his knowledge. So we play him in a lot of different spots and move him around a lot, and it makes it a little bit more difficult on the defense because you don't know exactly where Avery's lining up. But that tells you a little bit about his knowledge of the game and the ability to do that with him. Is that he's got a great understanding of playing a couple positions back there.
Melanie, we're going to go to the phone lines. Take questions there. Please press star 1 on your telephone keypad for a question for Coach Kelly. Is anyone home?
We have no questions at this time.
Okay, we're going back here. 1.
Chip, this is maybe more so for the fans, but in your 4 years now, what makes this rivalry so special or so unique between these two schools?
They're a really good team, and we're a really good team.
Rob?
Jeff Locke being a guy who made the travels, Michael, what have been your impressions of him the last few weeks?
We just alternate those guys. So Lockie's going 1 week, Jake's going the next week. That's, we got 2 young kids that we really are excited about. I think both good decision makers, both throw a really, really good ball. What we've done is with those guys we're just flipping them out. So depends on what game we are, who's going. So.
Rick?
Keith Price can be a handful. Is your first order of business to keep him contained, or what? How are you going to approach defending him?
Just like we do with any mobile quarterback, you got to make sure you understand where the rush lanes are and whatnot. And obviously, he's the focal point of that offense. We've got a chance to see him for 2 years now. He got his first start really here against us in Otson a couple of years ago when Jake couldn't go. So he can beat you with his feet. He's a really good passer, really good thrower. He's got a good understanding. He's been in Sark's system for a while now, so I think he's got a real good grasp of what they're doing. So whenever you play against a mobile quarterback, you got to make sure that you're, especially in the drop back game, that your rush lanes are where they're supposed to be, and we're making sure that we understand that he can take off and beat you with his feet as well as beat you with his arm.
DJ?
Coach, it seems like that Washington defense doesn't have a huge amount of size, but they have a lot of quickness, speed to the ball, things like that.
Seen Danny Shelton?
Excuse me?
Have you seen Danny Shelton?
Well, okay, he would be a definite exception, but in general, when you're facing, let's call that a speed defense, for lack of a better term, how does that change your game planning?
I don't look at it as a speed defense. I mean, they got 2 humongous defensive tackles in there, so they've got some athletic kids on the edges, but I don't have the exact height and weights, but they're not, they're a little bit more athletic at the defensive end spot. But those 2 tackles are both 330 plus kids, so we don't look at that as our game plan is that this is a speed defense. This is a 2 real tough physical inside kids that they can get big at inside linebacker. They got 1 kid who comes in that's 240, 245. So I think they got that. They got size at safety. So, we're not looking at it as that it's just solely a speed defense. I just think it's a really well coached group and a lot of athletic guys, but they got big guys that are athletic guys too. So.
Sure. Speaking of their defense, at least statistically, they're a lot better than last year. What have you seen on them that they're doing differently or that they're a lot better than they were last year?
Schematically, they're a little bit different. I think Justin's changed the scheme from what they were running before when Nick was there. So I think, but it looks like the players have a better understanding. I think they're tackling better. They do a better job in open space, but I think that speaks to the athleticism of the guys they have on the defensive side. So they look like they move some personnel around, and put some kids in some real advantageous positions for them to make plays. And the bottom line, like anything, when you're playing well, it's because you got kids that are going on the field and making plays, and they got kids that are making plays on the defensive side of the ball right now.
Yeah. So Fusion was saying that he thinks his team's more well-equipped to play 4 quarters and go the distance you guys do than in years past. Is that because of what you're talking about with the athletes or depth? What have you seen from them on film that makes it seem like?
I have no idea what Sark believes in his defense, or just like, I can speak about my team, what I know about us. I haven't seen them in person. I've just seen them on film. So.
But on film, does it seem like they're rotating a lot more guys than in the past?
Not as much as they've done in the past, no.
Melanie, we're going to go to the phones one more time. Last chance for anyone to ask questions for Coach Kelly. Please press star 1 on your telephone keypad.
Definitely a good job.
I take
We
that
have no
to be,
questions at this time.
go ahead.
We have no questions at this time.
Okay,
I can do that.
any final questions? Warren?
Chip, AJ was talking about your secondary, Evo and Terrence played well on Saturday against Washington.
AJ Jacobson? Good shout out, AJ.
How far in your mind have they progressed from the beginning of the season to now?
I mean, I've been confident in those guys for a while. I mean, it's not like their first game against Arkansas State was the first time they played. All three of those guys were the young freshman corners last year that played a ton of football for us and had an opportunity to play in 14 games for us. So I don't look at them, even though they're sophomores. I don't look at, that we were young or inexperienced in the secondary. We got a lot of experience back there. And the key to the three of those guys is they practice really, really well. And again, it's similar to the D-line. They thrive off each other. I think, Ifo plays really well in practice, and Terrence is going to play better in practice, and then Dior is going to play better in practice, and Troy's going to play better in practice, and then Avery does the same thing at the safety position, getting Brian Jackson and Dargan going. So there's a lot of competition because of our depth and in a lot of positions we have here. So I think that in itself, the kids that are playing well for us, and it's great for us as coaches, the kids that are playing consistently well on Saturdays are the kids that are practicing well on Mondays, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays, and that makes life real easy for us as coaches to point out. I thought Will Murphy had his best week of practice last week. I thought Will Murphy had his best game against Washington State. All that stuff kind of goes hand in hand for us. So it speaks to the preparation and what we talk about all the time. So.
I wonder about Murphy because he starts, but you rotate guys just as much as you always do. So when you're determining who gets a start, it's almost just a reward for the week of practice. And then
It really isn't. I mean, and I know we get. I don't think anybody. I don't think our players care. I don't think we care.
So why,
Just go.
why switch? I guess that's sort of my question. Why bother even switching up your starting?
And sometimes it's who's standing close to you. Go. I mean, seriously. I don't care if Kenyon's carrying the ball. I don't care if DeAnthony's carrying the ball. We don't care if Keenan's in the game or Murph's in the game. And, there's a lot of times we're here. We were joking. There was playing the Rose Bowl last year where we were trying to throw a wheel route to DeAnthony, and he got tired on the kickoff. I said, Kenyon, go. And Kenyon scored a touchdown. I looked at DeAnthony, and I said, that's your fault. And he's like, what do you mean? I go, I was calling it for you, but you weren't close to me. So Kenyon gets the glory because he's in the end zone, and you weren't close enough to me. And he's like, my bad. I said, get close to me. If you were close to me, you would have gone in the game. So
Will was standing closest to you.
Will was standing close to us. So, but I think that again talks to that we can play and we're gonna play. But it's not because we like this guy better than that guy. It's that they prove it every single day in practice. But you see guys, and I think this group is bought into that, and that's why. Our practices we're practicing at a pretty high level right now because there is competition. There's not a kid that can sit there and say, hey, I can have a bad practice and no one's going to push me. I think everybody's kind of pushing each other at certain positions, almost every position we got here. So because we've got some depth. So.
Coach, do you find more of that where kids
You didn't
now
raise your
around-
hand, Warren.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you.
And do your job too.
Do you find a lot more of that where kids now are rallying around you and wanting to go in the game? Is that just kind of
I haven't figured that out, so don't print that.
a...
I don't think they know the rhyme or reason. But, I think the good part about this team is they know that if you practice really well and you prepare really well, then you're going to get an opportunity to play. That's what this deal's all about, whether it's contributing on special teams, or rotating 22, 24, 25 guys on defense, or Woods rotating 7, 8, 9 linemen up front. We're playing a couple tight ends. We're playing 6 or 7 wideouts. We're playing 2, 3, 4 running backs, depending on what you consider Colt at times going in there. We're using 2 quarterbacks, so it makes for a healthy situation, especially because people understand if they prove to us and we have confidence on him based on demonstrated ability. It's not, I think he's a good player. It's, hey, I've seen him do it. Look at how many catches he had in Tuesday in 7-on-7. Look at what he was like Wednesday on 7-on-7. That just makes the guy next to him is, hey, Murph's practicing at a really high level. I better crank it up, or we're gonna, start to think about it that way. So that we're at a point where that's a pretty good thing for how the program's running, is that there's a lot of competition every day in practice, and that makes, I think, everybody better. So.